Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my June 2019 horoscope report for you. My intention for this video is to equip you with the information that you need regarding the astrological transits to have the best month possible. I will give you information about things that are occurring in June that will affect your sign and the general transits that will affect you, at the same time as understanding cycles that are at play for a much longer period of time to put everything into context to let you know what you're working with this month. Definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, where you can check out my extensive astrology blog, including new moon and full moon blogs, to assist you with using those power days of the month each month. Also, if you'd love to sign up for my astrology apprenticeship program, if you resonate with how I teach and you want to learn, you can definitely check that out at anniehelpsyou.com, as well as book a live reading. If you are looking to transform your life, check out my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days. It's a wonderful little affirmation prayer book that is super powerful and positive to help uplift you. So you can check that out on Amazon or at radicalprayerbook.com. So what's going on for you this month? I'm going to go into the details for your sign. I'm going to also pop in at some point the astrology charts that I'm looking at, so I can show you for the early, middle, and late degree placements, depending on where you are in the sign, how there could be some differences and what things are the same for every member of the sign. And also we'll talk about the general transits that will absolutely be affecting you and how you can best use those energies. So let's see what's going on for your sign now. Hello, Sagittarius friends. Welcome to my June 2019 report for you. I am calling the theme of this month for Sagittarius, for you, for us. I'm a Sag as well. Your greatest wishes fulfilled. Sagittarius people, anyone with a prominent placement in Sagittarius, and the more they have, the more these things will be true. There are certain things that Sagittarius love, want, need, and wish for all the time. One of those things is travel. Sometimes some Sagittarius can be satisfied by like intellectual travel, so reading, watching shows or documentaries or movies, or having experiences where they get transported into places where they're traveling. But a lot of times it's actual physical travel. And this month, between all the energy in Gemini and all the full moon energy in Sagittarius, either trips that you wanted will happen now, yay, or trips that you've been wanting or planning can gel in a big way, or you're scurrying around making plans for travel that's coming up. So that's one of the great wishes that Sagittarius tend to have that this month is amazing for. So your wish could be fulfilled at this time for that. One of the other things that Sagittarius love is higher learning, right? We are crazy book people. You can't see it from this view of my office, but Sagittarius always have a million books with bookmarks in them, partly read, skipping around, piles of books here and there, right? We love to learn, and we love to teach, and we love to expand our consciousness. So your chances for learning or finding a learning program or finding a teacher or finding, something, a book or something that really just so juicy, that is exactly what you wanted and needed, the odds of that are greater at this time with the energies as they are. And it's overstimulating. When we have energy in Gemini that's opposing our Sag energy, it's making us the way we are, but like 10 million times over, which is super scattered all over the place, excited, worked up, right? So we have all this Gemini energy just in some ways working against, but the way it's working against is that we do things to exhaustion. And we do that in general. So June is going to be a very busy month. You have to guard your health for sure. And definitely look for travel opportunities, teaching opportunities, learning opportunities. If you are a teacher or you're trying to get your work out in a bigger way, this is an amazing month to do that. And anything having to do with teaching and learning. Something else that Sagittarius wish for, that really we want fulfilled, that this month could be fulfilled, is this quest for spiritual expansion or doing greater spiritual work. And this can manifest in different ways. Like, I have a cousin who I love, and he was born around the same time I was, and our charts are very similar, and he became a pastor. So he is like a religious enthusiast in a certain division of religion. And I am a spiritual enthusiast, a spiritual zealot that has a different type of spiritual focus, but from the chart's perspective, it's actually the same. And Sag energy tends to have this high ideal, these philosophies, these, things that oversee the connectedness of everything. So advancements there in feeling spiritually connected or sharing about spiritual connection or working in those divisions are very likely this month. That's another wish. Another wish that Sagittarius have that could be fulfilled this month is this quest for freedom and flow. Sagittarius in general do not like when people are, or things are in their way of their flow. The flow is like the law, is like the sacred book of the Sagittarius is the flow. And so if a person, a thing, a situation is interfering with you, like flowing over here, even if it's like something standing in your way and you're trying to walk over to the cabinet, Sagittarius don't like that, and they get aggravated and they get angry sometimes. But this month there are some things, some aspects that could be challenging that could get in the way that we have to get through. But in general, there's just so much flow and so much busyness and so much activity and so much expansion. So that's another wish that could be fulfilled this month for Sagittarius. So I love this time. And, the biggest caution is the overstimulation factor and staying grounded. It is not going to be easy to stay grounded for us this month. It never is anyway. But I would be keeping your shoes off as much as possible, because the plastic and the rubber from shoes interfere with the Earth's vibration, helping to positively affect and clear our energy field. So if you're sitting at work and you can take your shoes off without making a ruckus or whatever you're doing, most Sagittarius, I know they love to have no shoes on. They're walking around, they're barefoot, they have shoes on they can take off easily, and then they're taking them off, and there's this sense that you have to get grounded, you have to stay grounded. And this month, you're going to need to do that more than ever, okay? Because this is just a huge time. Now, while our ruler, Jupiter, is still retrograde, there's still all of this stuff that can come to fruition from things we worked on before. If you're still feeling not very ambitious in certain areas of your life, don't worry about it. Just go where the flow is. Jupiter will be direct soon in July, and that oomph that you had for like whatever it is you're working on could come back in a big way. But, just follow the things that you're excited about now. And that will be easier than trying to force something, especially while your ruler is retrograde. Now, that being said, as I said before, things that you worked on before could just come to you at this time. I've seen that happen so much when I'm just like, I'm not really worried about or thinking about my goals or things that I'm trying to work on. And then all of a sudden, all this stuff comes to me. So you see that happen in a Jupiter retrograde, especially when you take the caution to not try to push and just be available for the magic that wants to come in. So besides all of this, there are actually some really important things that we have to talk about, and they have to do with the eclipses. When eclipse time comes, it brings high drama, it brings surprise endings, magical beginnings, and sometimes it brings a fruition to something that we've worked on, that we're trying for, that finally is happening. And sometimes it brings things out of the blue where we're like, oh God, that has nothing to do with what I was trying to do, and takes you in a different course. So what I'd like to do for the rest of the video, this is how it's going to go. I'm going to give you an eclipse tutorial to help you understand this Cancer eclipse cycle and when it happened in the past. So to bring in themes from your past, things that have happened that could be coming back again to be worked with in different ways, so you can understand that context from previous years that this occurred. And then also just some general energies about eclipses and how we feel the events along an eclipse cycle. Then after that, I'll jump to the charts visual, where I'll show you the Gemini energies and the other things going on. And then we'll also talk about these eclipses and where in the charts Sagittarius can expect to see the most sudden changes, surprises, and transformation occurring from these eclipses. Okay, so we'll go to the eclipse tutorial now. So I want to give you a little eclipse tutorial, and that will help you to better use the energy that we're going to talk about specifically for your sign as to where the eclipses are hitting. But general understandings of what you do with eclipse energy, how it manifests. I also want to talk about this particular eclipse cycle, the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle, and give you a framework for when it's happened before and what kind of things you can expect based on what happened at those times, okay? So, solar eclipses tend to bring in new energy, new opportunities, new directions. There's a solar eclipse on July 2nd, and that's going to be at 10 degrees of Cancer. We'll go into the details about where that's looking for house placement soon, but just in general, it's in the energy of Cancer. Okay, so new beginnings in that energy. The lunar eclipse is happening on July 16th at 24 degrees of Capricorn. Okay, so Lunar eclipses tend to bring something to a culmination, like it's been building, 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 and well, now it's arrived. Or it can end something, remove something, eclipse something out. So the eclipse energies, at the times that the eclipses are strongest, well, because we're in an eclipse cycle for a couple of years at a time. So for instance, from this eclipse cycle, Cancer Capricorn started mid-2018 and runs through mid-2020. So anytime from mid-2018 to mid-2020, anything can happen that's eclipse related. You can have eclipse news nowhere near an eclipse time because there's a storyline that's at play and it's acting in your life. Okay, so you'll see it's a theme that takes place over that time. But when it's eclipse time, the month of the eclipses and the 4 to 6 weeks before and after, so over a course of several months at a time, it's more likely that something will bring this eclipse storyline that's kind of running in the backdrop out into the front in a big dramatic way, in a big notable way, with things that were pending or discussed coming to fruition or coming up to be dealt with. Okay, so now we have that time. So July is the eclipse time, but we can start really getting like heated up hot eclipse energies middle May. And that can also run through, mid-September is like this major eclipse season. So as we're getting closer to July, news is more likely to come in and things will come to a head. Okay, so that's the first thing to know. The second thing to know is that think back to like 2009 to 2011 and think back to 2000 and 2001, because those were the last times that we had the Cancer Capricorn eclipse cycle. So you can think about the themes that have been going on since mid-2018. Think about what happened 2009, 2011. Think about what happened in 2000, 2001. And those are the kind of themes that are likely to come up again. Now, I know I'm going to get this question, so I'm just going to address this here. Yes, we did have the credit, housing, financial debacle of the century in that time frame of 2008, 2009, 2010, like around there. There was quite a lot of strife in a lot of sectors, and many people had dramatic losses of house, home, work, things like that. So is it possible that those energies are going to come back in again? Yes, absolutely. Is it going to manifest that same exact way? Probably not, because there were other factors going on in the world that contributed to what that looked like. And there were different factors at play that created that bubble that then popped, than are at play now. But definitely storylines similar to that. If you think back and you were moving house or having things involving housing or moving or home or work or expanding work or family and like all of that, those kind of things are going to definitely be current. And the other themes that occurred that aren't related to those areas of life are very likely going to come back into the forefront. And those are going to be dependent on the sign, which we're going to go into more details about. But I just wanted to give you this storyline, like, okay, this principle of energy not ever disappearing or being made new, that there's this finite amount of energy, but it's changed around. It just changes form. It's very evident at eclipse time because something is removed and something is put in. And sometimes you get the new thing put in before the other thing's removed. Sometimes they happen at the same time. Sometimes there's, staggering where you like have the thing taken, there's this gaping hole and you're like, where's the thing to fill the energy? It hasn't come in yet. It takes a little time. The way I commonly see this as like a really good eclipse example is like a child is about to be born and then a grandparent passes away, So like in that same amount of time, this representative of family energy dissolves into another form, takes the form of a kid, and it's like, okay, so now this energy is present in that form. So that specific example will happen in a lot of cases, but there's so much more to it than that. So, just be on the lookout for the things that want to fall away, and the degree to which we can let those things transition away are going to affect how we can embrace the new things. One thing that I do recommend that you look into is a homeopathic remedy called Gelsemium, Gelsemium. Okay, I'm not a doctor. You don't have to have a license to, work with these. You can find it on Amazon or at a health food store. Gelsemium is a homeopathic remedy that is traditionally used for stage fright, but it's also used from if you're looking at the energies of the components, It's more having to do with showing up for the things that are expected from you and showing up for the things that are unavoidable. So even like midwives will give this remedy at childbirth when the woman is showing up for like the big show, you know? So just think about the gelsemium and look into that, because it could help those things that you know are happening, just to kind of release the fear around stepping into your new life that wants to show up. Okay, so let's look at where in the chart these changes are likely to occur. Okay, so there will be certain things that we talk about where it will be relevant to know if you're an early, middle, or late degree Sagittarius. Basically, the early Saggies are the November born, or 0 to 9 degrees. Middle Saggies are December 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees. And late Saggies, which is where I am with you all, is December 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. Part of why I designate out these early, middle, and late degree placements is because I'm a late degree placement. And so I had noticed in my times of learning, when people would talk about something in the chart and I would go and try to find it myself, I would not see it. And that's because in a late degree chart, and sometimes a middle degree chart looks even different from the early as well, it shifts. So you'll see more of this. So that's why I spend the time to do this, because it really can make a difference. There are certain themes that we will discuss that are the same in spirit for all early, middle, and late degree Saggies. But because I'm an astrology teacher, I like to go into the details to give you more juicy things. Okay. So the first thing that I want to point out, I'm going to use the early chart, but I'm talking about stuff for all Saggies, is these planetary placements in Gemini, and Venus will be there soon as well. Okay. So personal placements moving through Gemini oppose Sag placements. In general, what that means is just that scatteredness, that overstimulation, that overdoing, that excess that we are already known for just moves us to exhaustion. So you have got to watch your exhaustion levels, take your supplements, ground like we talked about, get your sleep, because there's a lot for you to do this month and we want you to show up for it and stay well. Okay, so the planets moving into Cancer, you can't see this on this chart, but well, you can see Mars is there. But at some point soon, Mercury will get there in the month, the Sun will get there later in the month, and then eventually Venus will get there as well. But in this month, we have an equal placement of Gemini and Cancer energies. This, like I said, you can't see it, but it is in motion through the month that is occurring. Planets in Cancer for Saggies bring a lot of emotional overtones, and it's a little bit different than this mental and physical moving of energy with Gemini. So the emotions are going to start to come in, and a lot of times that has to do with a lot of nostalgia and then the missing of home or family, or the visiting of home or family, or the planning to visit home or family, or people having, visiting you, or planning on returning to a place that felt like home, or traveling to a place that felt like home. Things that your family needs, attention in the home or in the family is going to come up. And that will be a theme from June into July as well for Saggies. Okay, so more drama and emotion is coming for all signs, and that's coming from these eclipses. So for the early degree placements, okay, so we're working with a Cancer Capricorn polarity, and in general, in what we would say, without taking into consideration early, middle, and late degree placements, Capricorn rules the second house and Cancer rules the 8th house for Saggies. So the second and 8th houses are the polarities that are at play for this eclipse cycle from the middle of 2018 through the middle of 2020. But you can see, and I'll show you how this happens, as we switch over to this middle degree chart. The Cancer energy is in the 8th house, but it's also in the 7th house. And the Capricorn energy is in the 2nd house, but it's also in the 1st house. So that means early degree placements have a more pure 2nd and 8th house. And I will go into, detail about what these houses mean and what the eclipses could bring from this. But we have to lay the groundwork so you understand what we're looking at. Okay, so the early degree placements have more of a pure 2nd and 8th house polarity with Cancer and Capricorn and with this eclipse cycle. As you move to the middle, but even y'all, do have some whispers of 1st and 7th. first and seventh house. Okay, so the early, we'll call it a primary theme of second and eighth house with a sub-theme of first and seventh. The middle is going to be pretty equally second and eighth and 1 and 7 as a both primary themes. And then look what happens when we get to the late degree placements. This is why we have to talk about this. Look at the late chart over here. Okay, so pretty much all of the, depending on your exact late degree placement, a predominance of Capricorn energy is actually in the first house with a little bit in the second. And again, a predominance of Cancer energies in the seventh house with a little bit in the eighth house. So that means for the late degree placements, the first and seventh are the primary theme, and the second and eighth are the sub-theme. But the thing that's the same about all of this, because where the first and seventh and the second and eighth match, is that it has to do with me versus we, and my stuff versus our stuff. That's basically the very simplistic description of what these houses are about. So all Saggies have this ongoing theme through the eclipses of like, what's mine, what's yours, how we merge, how we individualize, my money, your money, our money, borrowing money, loaning money, credit, debt, that whole storyline. So I'm going to share with you some of the ways I've seen these eclipses manifest in these houses, and do know that everything I say is going to be for all Saggies, just again with those, whether it's a theme or a sub-theme. So I'll use the early degree chart, but I'm talking about everybody. Actually, let's use the middle degree chart since that's more clearly in the middle. Let me get these out of the way so it's not as confusing. Come over there. Okay, so in general, the energy is clearing up here and moving towards here. Okay, so the lunar eclipse means it's kind of shifting away from that, and the solar eclipse is the opening. So like the lunar is the culmination, the closing, and the solar is the opening. So what that's going to mean for a lot of Saggies is that some money projects you're working on can work out in a big way, come to a culmination, things you've done for a long time can bring in money. But usually it's going to involve partnering with somebody to access that money. So it's like you're taking some of your individual efforts. And we know how Saggies like to be in their own flow, right? So sometimes working with somebody else is not as easy. So some of your big money may come from merging with somebody else, collaborating, an opportunity that someone presents to you. A lot of Saggies are writers. So we'll just use the example of like, a writer's agent, a publisher, a publicist, somebody helping you edit, your book, or a website helper to help you work on your blog, just things like that, where you're doing all this on your own because you're so independent, but you really need these resources to be able to bring your work out in a bigger way. So this eclipse cycle is very much about how your individuality and your independent finances become merged with other people. Some people will lose a way of income, but they'll gain it over here. So like maybe they have their own business, but then they start a partnership. So their business closes and now they're working with somebody else. So there's like this closing of energy in the arenas of the independence and the individual, or whether that's, first house, the individual, and then merging to the partnership. So you can see it's really the same thing. So it's like you alone or you and your publicist, you alone or you and your accountant. This could even be just people you hire, people you delegate. I've been telling you there's this major theme over time for Saggies of like doing only the things that only you can do and having other people help you with that. Well, this eclipse cycle is huge for that because it opens up energy in this sector, which is the accountant, the person who, does your lawn, whatever it is, getting help. You're pushing, shunting the energy into that direction. So new relationships, new chapters in relationships, new key figures, new financial support coming in, and your independence or you as an individual sort of merging in to, the other direction of the togetherness. Some Saggies will have health issues come up from the lunar eclipse. That is usually going to be from things that you were too busy to attend to because you probably had symptoms. But you know what you did? is you decided to be positive about them. You decided to be productive, and then you ignored the health issue, and now this is what's happening. Okay, so Saggies we're on this ongoing path of taking time to feel in between the action and the spiraling, dizzying thoughts and ideas, taking time to feel. And in the cases where you don't process your emotions, first of all, you're going to get mad. And second of all, you're going to get sick. All right, so if that's already happening, this eclipse brings it in, that's why. Huge piece of information that I've seen super critical for Saggies: make your liver happy. Sagittarius rules the liver. And if your liver's not happy, guess what? Not only are you going to be sad, but you're going to be mad as hell. Because liver holds the energy of anger and resentment, which is the outcome of what Saggies get when they don't stop and feel, and they take on too much, and they don't work with those emotions. Then the liver gets really angry. And there are some situations where you're just born, we're seeing more with genetics now. There are liver mutations where a lot of people are just born not processing things through the main highways of their liver the way other people do. A lot of people in general, but a lot of Saggies are going to find out, guess what? The reason why you're so sensitive and different is because you don't process things through your liver emotionally or actually physiologically the way other people do, which causes a backup and toxic things. Autoimmune is a huge piece here, and other things that have to do with the toxicity level. So look up how you can love your liver. And I'm not a doctor, so of course you have to check these things for yourself. But the ways that you, and I don't necessarily recommend even a radical liver cleanse without making sure that's okay with you. I'm talking about daily things you can do to support your liver, like Epsom salt baths, unless you have a sensitivity to sulfur. Epsom salt baths every day, because what you want to try to do is use your skin. That's a person. Sorry about that. Okay, use your skin. Your skin is your largest eliminatory organ. All that surface area on your skin. You can use that to take take the burden off of your liver. So if you can exfoliate and go in an Epsom salt bath a few times a week, if you don't have a sensitivity to sulfur, or if you have some other reason, pregnant women, be careful here because you could get more magnesium than is good for you. Just do your research for your situation. You don't want to make it too hot if you have certain nervous or neurological things, or cardiovascular things. Just use reason, but think about how your skin, as the largest eliminatory organ, can help you to take the burden off your liver so you don't have to be mad or sad and you can be more healthy. I am putting together more resources on topics like this, by the way. It's going to take me some time, but do know that it's coming. Okay, so those are the things most on my mind for Saggies. And now I want to talk about the general transits. And there are some more pieces in the general transits that will be relevant for you specifically. I'm going to give you some dates to watch and talk a little bit more about the changing of the climate from the open period free from personal planet retrogrades to the start of the Mercury retrograde and how we have to navigate that. So you're going to see me back on the screen, and we're going to go into all those details now. I'm calling the theme of the month for all signs for June 2019, dramatic eclipse news and changes. Twice a year we have eclipses, and at that time, radical changes, massive trajectory shifts, major endings, brilliant new beginnings are all more prominent as an experience for us. We are moving along an eclipse cycle of the Cancer Capricorn cycle. So I'm going to go into a lot more details about how that can affect you from the general standpoint. Of course, I've already gone into extensive detail for your sign. In general, this month is full of opportunities to continue moving projects along. The open window that we have that's free and clear from personal planet retrogrades extends until around June 20th. So starting around then, Mercury retrograde pre-shadow period will start making its way deeper and deeper and deeper until the actual retrograde at the beginning of July, and Mercury will be retrograde all of July. So in July, we have 2 eclipses and Mercury retrograde, but in June, we are feeling the effects of Mercury about to go retrograde and the eclipses that haven't happened yet. So every once in a while, I'll have somebody say, why are you talking about this now? That sounds like it should be for July. But as I've just explained to you, the manifestations of astrological transits are not as black and white as they may be presented out of simplicity. But I like to go into the yummy details because these are the things that really, really, really start to help you build your astrological understanding and to use these energies in the best way. Okay, so Mercury retrograde is a time when lots of changes come. Plans that we made often change, shift, or are called into question. Sometimes they actually work out, but there's usually this heavy energy of being called into question. So June may be a time for planning and pulling things through, especially the first 3 weeks. But there's also going to be this tone towards the end of the month, especially that things that seem like they were set may start to, you're just not sure if they're going to happen. So there's that energy. Plus, coupled with that, eclipses bring big news. So you could be planning on doing this, and then all of a sudden eclipse news comes in and guess what? You're not doing that. That's totally changed. So I always recommend to leave things as flexible as possible and just to be open to the changes that may come. And when you're making agreements and arrangements, just make them knowing that there's a chance they're going to change, because that will help you to have the appropriate relationship with what it is you're working with. In general, this month, these planets in Gemini, lots of energy in Gemini is bringing crazy busyness and dizzying, just kind of options swirling around. Some things will be manifesting as like options gelling, like, okay, there's this and this and this actually happening. But other things will be like, do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do this? Do I do this? Is like a typical Gemini energy. At the same time, Cancer energies are going to be just as strong this month as the Gemini energies and have equal weight. And those are more emotional, nostalgic. So definitely expect high emotion, both from the Cancer energies and the eclipses. Nostalgia, home and family and housing topics get brought right into the forefront. And this is for every sign, because the energy of Cancer is prominent for every sign. These 2 July eclipses that are bringing in these changes, we discussed them quite a lot for your individual sign, but I want to talk about some of the general transit energies. So that has to do with the Cancer Capricorn cycle that started mid-2018 and will go into mid-2020. And so everyone can expect major changes in the areas of home and work, male and female energies, mother and father energies, mother and father responsibilities and roles, our inner world versus our outer world, our emotional space versus our outer space, our childhood versus our adult picture. Those are themes that are going to be brought up into focus for all signs, regardless of what house it's falling into for your specific sign. This general theme, or these general themes, are things that you can expect for the whole time. So as we discussed, there's a quite extended timeline for these eclipses. So between May and even August into September is eclipse season. So radical changes occurring during that time, or during that whole time. So there's an equal amount of positive aspects and challenging aspects this month. And because of that, it's really your attitude, perspective, and inner work that can change, like can tip the scales as to how you experience this month. Okay, so with all things being equal, like, oh, dicey, oh, great. If you're riding the line, how you're seeing things and how you use the things that come in are going to really change how you experience this month. So you have a lot of power in your hands, but it is going to take some work on your part to try to frame the things that are occurring to stay on the positive side. Because if you slip into the victim mode and feel like life is happening to you, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get the gold from this month. I'm going to hit a couple of highlights about some specific dates to note. And if you would like a more detailed written explanation of the dates that have notable transits and what the transits are and what you can expect with that, definitely sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. When you sign up for my free email newsletter, you get this general transit overview a month early, written in your inbox so that you can use it for planning purposes and see what days are more stressful and what days are, lighter. I used to go into like a lot of detail about all of these, but I've had many requests to try to shorten my videos, which are already super long and detailed. So in order to reach that objective, definitely sign up for my free email newsletter. I don't send out a ton of email newsletters because I don't like how that feels to get it. So when you sign up for my newsletter, know that you will be treasured and honored and respected. So I'm going to go into, let's see, a few here. June 2nd, like really actually the first several days of the month are my favorite days of the month to do anything important. It might just have it that you have to do these important things on other days, and that's totally fine. But if you can plan something, if there's something that you're planning, something that you have, an intention to do ahead of time, this early part of the month, like the first 3 or 4 days or so, is more sweet and uninterrupted by the intermittent challenging aspects than any other time in the month, because the rest of the month it's like sweet, dicey, sweet, dicey, sweet, dicey, right on top of each other, often on the same day. But this little cluster right at the beginning, you're in this free time, free from personal planet retrogrades. You are in this time where the aspects are sweet. You've got the new moon on June 3rd in Gemini. This is a month where a lot of travel opportunities are going to abound because Gemini energy is prominent. New moon in Gemini and full moon in Sagittarius are all things that tend to bring travel and opportunities for expansion and moving around. Okay, so try to do your important things in the beginning of the month if you can help it. Otherwise, I always say intuitively align your actions with the energy that you're experiencing. Because what happens, again, it's like people want to have a black and white answer and say, is this a good day or a bad day? The answer is, we don't know, okay? Because it depends on how you experience it. A lot of these aspects you can feel, even though they're happening on one day, you can feel them a few up to, 5 or a week or longer before they happen. So they're mixing energies, just like mixing flavors in a meal. And they fade in and fade out. So you have to tune in, and if you have to do something, you kind of feel that internal sense of timing and that divine synchronicity lining up in front of you and say, okay, and now, it's just like catching a wave. If you've ever been surfing, it's like you have to wait for that exact second. And if you hit it just right, then you coast and have an amazing ride. But that's what we're trying to do. So no astrologer and no horoscope in the world is going to be able to give you all of the answers that you need. You need to tune in, given the information that you're given, and find your own way according to how energy is moving through you, because there could be a transit on a day that's amazing, and in your personal chart, which we can't see from the general chart perspective, you could be having a challenging lineup. So, you just have to follow your flow. Okay, so beginning of the month, awesome. New moon on June 3rd, time to make your new moon wishes. And I have a blog about the new moons and the full moons on my website to help you best use those days. So if you want to see how you can best use your new moon in Gemini wishes, you can do a search for new moon in Gemini Annie. I think if you even just do that on any search, it will come up. That blog will come up. Okay, so we have a lot of stressful aspects this month, oppositions and squares, which are putting pressure on a situation. Okay, so for some people, this could be crunch time to make something happen. For some people, this could be an interference with plans that were made or an interference with certainty that you had. Also, it could be overstimulation and overdoing and overcommitting. So just be really careful there. There are going to be a lot of forces that are working against, encouraging you to overdo at the same time as working against you if you actually do that. Okay, in the middle of the month, this Jupiter square Neptune, that we had this happen in January. We're going to have this happen again in September. In general, this is a time where the odds are more in favor of a disappointment now than a triumph. If you're not, again, listening to this, best way to describe it is it's your inner limits, finding and setting your inner limits, because Jupiter's expansive energy just wants to go, whoo, expand, 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 expand. And then Neptune throws questions into that, throws, a lack of clarity, throws confusion. So it's like you feel this expansion wanting to come, but you either don't know how to use it, how to do it, or in which way to go, what direction. So definitely try to follow the flow and settle into the new norm of what you've already expanded, rather than trying to continue too much expansion, if possible. This full moon in Sagittarius at almost 26 degrees on June 17th will bring fullness, completion, fruition to all things Sagittarius. So anything involving teaching, learning, international travel or business, different countries, different cultures, different languages, spiritual pursuits, anything involving the church, if you're, whether it's a specific church or just spirituality in general. And a lot of trips or information about trips or gelling of trips could come at this time, or education opportunities. Okay, look out for that whole thing of the overdoing, like I talked about, especially around June 23rd. This could be like where too much of a good thing occurs. When there's an opposition with Venus and Jupiter, or with anything in Jupiter, Jupiter tends to be more benevolent in its opposition form. So this is something that could be just like too much of a good thing. So, overdoing, try to guard your immune system. And if you're watching your money, then be extra careful right now, because your drive to splurge will definitely be more. So if you're on a budget, be careful of the elated energies that could occur at this time, because you could go on a spending frenzy and it could take you off track. Okay, so in general, those are the things that I most wanted to talk about. There are lots more details, as I discussed, but in order to try to keep this brief and focused, I've just hit some of the highlights. So definitely go to AnnieHelpsYou.com. If you'd like to book a live reading, you can do that there. You can also book a reading with my apprentice, Marilee. And Marilee is amazing. So you can see more about how to connect with her on my readings page at AnnieHelpsYou.com. You can check out my extensive blog. If you'd love to have written horoscopes from me, you can go to CozyBySweetStarlight.com. And I do written horoscopes a month ahead, sometimes talking about different things than we talk about in the video. So you get a more extensive view and a written version there, plus lifestyle blogs. And definitely check out my book, Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life in the World in 28 Days. You can see that on Amazon, and you can buy that internationally. It also can be available and ordered, either if they're not already, at booksellers across the world, or you can see it at radicalprayerbook.com. So I hope you have a wonderful month. I hope the eclipses bring you good news and lots of chances for wonderful transformation, and I'll see you next month. Bye.